Hello guys, in today's tutorial I'll be showing you how to make those go through platforms where our player goes from here to here like so. Choop, choop. Anyways, to make them we'll be needing the platform, of course. We will be needing a trigger below the platform and some default values up and down here to which the player will teleport. This is a way to do it. I'll then show you another way, but this is the simpler way and it works pretty well. So what we're going to do is whenever our player is colliding with the trigger and is colliding with the trigger and is colliding with the platform itself and is pressing the W key, then we'll be teleported over here to the top to this reference. And why do we need this trigger? Well, imagine that we are here. Here is colliding with the platform, and if the player presses W, he would go teleported to this zone instead of jumping like we just wanted. We wanted him to jump in this case, but he won't jump. So that's why we need this trigger over here. And then if he is on the top of the platform and he presses S, then he'll be teleported to this zone over here. And it's pretty simple. So the platform that I've chosen to do it is this one over here. I'm going to import to Unity right now, like so. And let's do what we always do, change this to, in this case, 20, and then this to true, 2 point, and this to true color, apply. Put the platform into the scene. You can delete this thing over here, like so. And one thing that we're going to notice when I add the box collider right now is that the player is all funky. As you can see, it doesn't even move correctly. And why is that? Well, because he only moves correctly when he's on the ground. And by ground I mean when whatever is standing on has the ground layer. So click on the platform, go into the layer default and go and press ground like so. And there you go. Now let's get to the stuff that I was talking about. Let's create that trigger right now. So make it a trigger. It can be the same size, doesn't really matter. And put it below the platform like that. And okay. And now make sure it's a trigger. And let's now add the script to it. So platform go through. Platform go through. Go through. Create an ad. And what we're going to first do is delete all this stuff. It doesn't matter. Like so. And now let's detect the trigger to see whenever the player is colliding with the trigger. So void on trigger stay 2D, stay 2D, collider 2D, oh wait, no, 2D like that. And in this function what we're going to do is put an if clause. So if the whatever is colliding with the platform, so if other.gameObject dot tag is the player, well then we want a variable to be creating right now, which will be the go up variable. Go up, we want it to be true, else this variable will be false. Up equals false. And let's create a variable over here, public float bool. It doesn't even need to be public. Bool go up variable. And by the way, you see that we use the tag player over here. We're going to have to add that tag to the player. Make sure you add it. It's already a default tag, so just click on it. Yeah, like that. And now let's make the magic. Void on collision enter 2D. This is when the player is colliding with the platform itself, not the trigger. When he's entering the collision, when he's staying, by the way, on collision state has to be on collision state 2D. So collider 2D collider, no, it has to be collision. I mean, here when it's a collision, it has to be collision to be in the parameter like that. And let's just copy this if other clause. So, for instance, if our player is on top of the that platform and is colliding with it, then if he presses the key S, so input dot get key code S dot S, then we want the player to go down a certain distance. So let's put here the current position of the player, other dot game object dot transform the position, and we want it to keep the same x but a different y. So new, it has to be a vector free because Unity wants to, but you won't put any third parameter. So 0 here, and here in the y we want it to go down a bit, so let's put here down value. This will be a variable that we will later define. Okay, and now let's make, you can make it an if instead of an else if, but it's exactly the same thing. And just copy this because it will be basically the same thing. So if other.gameObject.tag is player and the player is pressing the W key and the variable go up is true, then we want the other.gameObject to transform that position to be plus equal. I mean, it has to be plus equal, sorry, because we're adding to the current position a slight value to a, it will be equal to a up value here. So let's put those floats over here, public floats, down value, oh, up value. Okay, everything's nice, and I think that this does it. If I haven't made any mistake, let's see. We have our player, it has the player tag, this has the ground layer, and of course let's define some values to the down value and the up value. In my case it has to be something like 0.7 and minus 0.7, so the down value will be negative and the positive one will be positive. So let's see, if I press play, everything seems nice. Let's press the S key, it goes down just like we wanted, and if I press the W key, it goes up just like we wanted. And this is a working platform right here, and it's a pretty good, I'd say. You can even put like stair rails, like this kind of stairs. It's fun to do it. One little problem with this is the problem that I was talking about in the beginning of the video, that we don't want our player to keep on jumping like he's doing right now. We want him to real jump like this, but that rarely happens. And a quick fix to this is just create here a void trigger exit function. So void trigger exit, and turn the go up to false in here, not in the top here. So like so, do this thing, save that over there, and now if we hit play, you'll see the top player won't jump like crazy. You see, it only jumps when we want to. And if the platforms are close enough together, it still does that fun climbing up quick thing and climbing down. This method works pretty fine, and if you're happy with it, just go with it and goodbye. But I'm going to show you something a bit more complicated. It's not more complicated, it's more like, it's less game breaking, because this has to be for every time he jumps, he has to change position. It has a teleport, and sometimes you don't want that. Sometimes you want a more physics game. For example, what I'm going to do now is so that, imagine that you jump. You know that our player has different height jumps. If you jump a bit, he jumps only a bit. If he jumps a lot, you can jump a lot. So imagine that you only jump like this way. Well, then we don't want the player to go up the platform. We want it to go down. But if he goes like until this point over here, we want it to stay here in the top of the platform. So let's do this right now. I'm going to put all this code under parentheses, but you know, you can use it if you want. It will stay here. I can even name it uh, simple go up and down. And this, the way that we're going to do what I was talking about is this: whenever a player hits this trigger, and the player will become a trigger itself, because triggers don't collide with colliders. I mean, they collide, but they don't physically interact. So it will be, you can do this. The only problem that we'll be having is that sometimes uh, um, because we want this trigger to transform the player into a trigger, sometimes the player is so fast going from here to here that when he collides with this, with the platform itself, he's not yet a trigger, so he collides with it and goes back down instead of just like whee, like we wanted. Anyways, let's do it. Go on to more develop, and let's create some new routines that will be based on the old ones. But anyways, void on trigger stay 2D collider to the other, and this will be the player. If other dot game object dot tag equals player, like so. Player, we want to turn the player into a trigger. And how do we do that? Well, let me tell you something first. We could simply put here other, which is the player, dot game object dot collider to the, and we want to set this to a trigger, so dot is trigger equals true, equal with only on equal equals true, and this will make the player turn into a trigger. But for me it doesn't work. Let me tell you why. Because what this does is that it finds the first collider in the player inspector. So this is the player, and we have here two colliders. So it finds the first one and turns it into the trigger, no more. But since we have two triggers over here, two colliders over here, we want to transform both into triggers. So this way isn't going to work, only if you have a player with only one collider. So the other way that I found is by typing here other dot game object dot, and now we're going to use the get component function or method or whatever this is. And the way this works is it searches for a certain component in that box collider that is within this less than and or greater than sign. So it searches for the box collider to the in the player, which is this component over here. And let's transform the trigger to make the trigger equal to true, like that. And we also want to make the same thing to the circle collider. So type here to find the thing called circle colliders to the on our player, just like that. Now every time that our player hits this over here, it will turn into a trigger, and it will be able to jump a little bit further. But whenever he reaches the end of it, so whenever, for example, whenever he exits the trigger, so like so, or like so, we can make a bigger trigger, but anyways, whenever he exits the trigger, we want the player to go back to be physically active. So just copy all this function, and instead of being on trigger stay, make it on trigger exit. By the way, this here can be on trigger stay on or on trigger enter. just pick what you prefer. And in here, on trigger exit 2D, each trigger equals false, and this should be working. Let's check it out. Like that. With this makes the box and the circle collider go back to being actual colliders and not triggers. So let's see. As you can see, let me pause it and let's analyze the platform over here, the player actually. When the player hits the platform trigger, which is right about here. No, it's not. It's a bit upper, like here. As you can see, his triggers, his colliders are not triggers, and then it keeps on jumping. He's up here. As you can see, he goes back to be a physical object, like that. And now we've made the game. For example, if we want to go if we do this, oh wait, if our player just jumps like halfway, it doesn't go all the way. It doesn't go like up there. You know, you can even make the trigger a bit wider and taller, do whatever you want. Now the only thing that's left to take care is whenever our player is up here, we want him to go down there. So make the same thing with the same principle. Whenever a player is on a collision with the platform, so void on collision stay, and here it has to be a collision parameter because this is a collision. So whenever this happens and if other.game object is player, and if the player is pressing the down key, input.getKey s keycode.s. If this is happening, then we want to make something similar happen. We want to turn this into the player into a trigger. So as the player hits S, the player will turn into a trigger, and whenever the player exits this trigger over here, this down box, it becomes a real thing again. Oh, I'm a real boy. Anyways, let's save it, test it, and say goodbye. So, oh, something's happening. Oh, as you can see right now, this is an issue that we have with this way, because if the platforms are too close together, when the player goes up here, let me pause it. When the player goes up here, he's already colliding with the trigger, this trigger over here, and then it's just like he never becomes a real boy. So I'm going to take this out of the way, or just put it up a bit. Hit play. As you can see, if we hit the down key, it goes down, and if we hit the up key, it goes up. And by the way, sometimes if this box isn't big enough, just like happened like one time, the player doesn't become into a trigger soon enough, so you collide with it. Let me show you. See, just like that, the player didn't turn into a trigger and he collided with the platform anyways. But that happens rarely, and if that happens a lot, just increase the size of the trigger like that, and now you have a working thing. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Any questions that you have, leave them in the comments. Any questions that you have, leave them also there. And goodbye. See you in the next tutorial.